Welcome to the Uncomfortable Three-Way. My name's Alvin.
That's Dick. I'm Matt, and this is our new guy.
I'm Allari.
And we're going to talk about getting fucked tonight.
So is Allari...
What is getting fucked?
Getting fucked is where you literally pay out money for something and they show up with either what you didn't want. So like you buy a car and it shows up and they're like, oh dude, this thing's pristine. Dude, this is a 65 Mustang. It has 30 miles on it. And it shows up and it's got 190,000 miles on it. The tires are falling off. There's holes through the door. There's a crackhead in the trunk. Still alive. They didn't even kill him. He's alive in the fucking trunk. And then you have to like figure out what to do. And they're like, oh yeah, by the way, this car don't have a title and it's stolen from New Jersey.
Yeah,
that's getting fucked.
That's getting fucked.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of people are like, I got fucked, and you're like, well, no, the situation just didn't pan out the exact way you wanted to. But getting fucked and shit's not working out is two different things. Getting fucked is where somebody viciously goes after you and does it intentionally to make it so they benefit themselves and you lose out.
Nothing. You lose out.
That's getting fucked. At least in my head.
So like going to the casino,
perfect example.
You get fucked.
So no. Perfect example is if I lose on my 200 Powerball tickets because that's just $1.9 billion. If I lose tonight on that, I didn't get fucked. I just didn't win.
Yeah,
is a difference.
Yeah, I guess it is a difference because you're expecting to.
But if there was like a government conspiracy within the lottery to make sure that none of your
if 1.9 hold on, let's be real. If 250 million people win it and the pot gets split by fucking 250 million and everybody gets like $75, then I got fucked. Because the one time in my life that I'm gonna win the lottery and I gotta share it with the entire fucking country, that's getting fucked.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. That's my luck, though. That's literally my luck. 700 winners.
That would be terrible. So, Allari, tell us a little bit about yourself. What you got going on, man? What you done in the past?
Well, you know, I mean...
Well, how'd you know about that new single you got coming out, dropping on Tuesday?
Yeah, you can find me on iTunes. So I hitchhiked and traveled the country for the better part of 5 years, like going to festivals and gatherings. I rode a couple of freight trains.
What started it though? Like, where were you? Like, were you just sitting there one day eating like a PB&J sandwich and it was like, you know what, fuck this life?
I was living in Southern Illinois and I had just a life kind of filled with hatred, and like my life was like consuming me in that hatred. And one day I got real high and I just had this realization of like, why am I here? Like, if I hate who I'm around and I hate where I'm at, why would I stay here? Like, fundamentally, that logic just doesn't add up to me.
So that was where you were at in the beginning.
So I was like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to go somewhere else with different people. If I don't like them, I can try again. Like, roll the dice. Eventually, I'll find cool people. So that's basically what I did. Me and my ex, like, we started traveling together. Like, we started, like...
What happened to her? Did you, like, murder her and leave her in, like, the forest somewhere? Where's she at?
No, we went to a rainbow gathering, and I ate a bunch of mushrooms one night and, like, ran around in the woods, got a little crazy, and then all of a sudden, like, I find my dog tied up underneath a hammock, and I'm like, what the hell? I come up, and, like, she's, like, naked in it with some other dude, and, like, I'm tripping balls still. So, like, that was like a whole thing that happened.
So that sounds like a traumatic experience. Did that make you not want to trip more, or like what happened?
I feel like I have like psychedelic PTSD. Like, I've taken too much so many times that now sometimes even whenever I take just a little bit, like I get an anxiety from it. Like, I'll start feeling the stuff and I'll be like, oh man, like this is what it felt like last time whenever I had that happen. Like,
Okay. Yeah, no, it's kind of like me with weed. If I smoke too much weed, I can start getting to that point where I'm like, oh, shit, dude, I don't like this. This ain't right.
Yeah. That's definitely a thing.
I call it the come to Jesus meeting in the shower, fully clothed, praying that shit stops.
Yeah. I've been there. I go, like, animalistic. I become, like, this, like, this craven husk of a person that only wants to be not observed and, like, in silence and darkness and, like, sit perfectly still. Like, if I get way too fucked up in the woods, like at a festival, I'll literally just pick a random direction.
So you keep saying woods.
And then I'll all right, so the
these
rainbow
festivals are in the woods?
Without going too far into it, the rainbow gatherings exist in the National Forest, and the premise is that you can have a free, peaceful gathering of people on public land, like, and that's just allowed. Like, that's a thing that's allowed to us in the Constitution. So as long as it's a non-commercial event, nobody has to sign a permit. Like, nobody has to anything. Like, literally, we all just show up and hang out. But that's the thing; it's non-commercial. So, like, it's a little bit of half and half of like you got to bring what you need, but also everybody's got you. So like, if you were ever going to be like knocked out, stripped naked, and left somewhere, the middle of a rainbow gathering is about the best conditions you could possibly be in.
So
Because you'll have clothes and food and be stoned in like 20 minutes.
how do you find out about a rainbow gathering? Like, is there a certain
like
web page, or is there like
you can
you go
Google
on-
it, but there's like a bunch of Facebook pages. There's the there's a regular like Rainbow Family of Living Light page, but they make like a different Facebook page for every gathering. So like you have to.
So it's
figure
like a
out,
one-time thing, basically.
Well,
You know,
it depends. Like some, like in the Pacific Northwest, I think that they have like some Facebook pages that are like solid, like they stay over time. But like the Florida gathering, there's a new page every year. Like it'll be like Ocala Rainbow Gathering 2021 or like Ocala Rainbow Gathering 2022. That'll be the name of the Facebook group or page or whatever. And then you get on there, and that's where everybody's posting stuff about it. But traditionally, how you find out is you call the light line. There's like a phone number that you call. Mind you, the Rainbow Gathering started in like the 70s or something like that.
Okay.
But you call the light line, and it's like a pre-recorded message, or it's a live person sometimes. That's what happened to me the first time I called. I literally called. It was like 4:30 in the morning. I was trying to find my way to Acola, which is a gathering that happens right after Ocala in the Apalachicola National Forest. But I called up, and like it was some drunk dude. He was like, "What?" You know, because it's like 4 in the morning. I was like, "I'm trying to fucking find my way there. I'm like on this back road. Like, where the fuck do I go?" He's like, "Do you see rock stacks?" And in that moment, we were like passing an intersection, like on this dirt road, and there was a rock stack off to the side, and we were like, "We see it." He's like, "Fucking follow it, and don't call me back until the sun comes up."
Okay.
Yeah, we made it. It was a wild experience, and then we parked. I got out and set foot on the ground. Like last time I had taken my feet off the ground was in like Indiana or something like that, like because she had gotten out to get gas, like halfway there or whatever. But I step out and I go to the trunk and I'm pulling something out of the trunk. I'm barefoot, and then bam, fucking fire ants. I'm standing in them, like right there.
Yeah, there's definitely something about the South.
Yup.
So what else? What other crazy things have happened to you? Like, what experiences do you have? We've heard something about a huddle house story.
Okay, so I am only allowed at one huddle house ever again. I am banned from Huddle House corporate. I'm not allowed at any huddle house at all except for the huddle house in Mount Sterling, Kentucky. So I was 19, I believe. Yeah, I had to have been like 19. An important bit to this story, I had not yet smoked a cigarette, ever. Like, it wasn't my thing. So I was hitchhiking with a couple of people. They were kind of a couple, kind of not. Like, it's a real weird situation that would be a whole other 30-minute episode to go into. But we wound up getting dropped off in this little place, Mount Sterling, Kentucky. And like, I wish that we had a Jamie so that he could like pull up a Google Maps picture of the area.
How's he know about Jamie?
Hung out with us too.
Oh yeah.
But there's like so the road terminates to like about like Walton Way. You know what I'm talking about whenever I say that? Like the
No.
road that a Walmart's on.
Yeah.
It's called Walton Way. Like it's a road that terminates, and there's like stores on either side, but it ends with the Walmart. It was one of those, and so you had like the Walmart, and there was like a median, or not a median, but like a grass patch before the road, and in that grass patch was the sign for the Walmart, like the Walmart sign. Across the road was a Huddle House and a Burger King. Well, they decided that they wanted to like try to panhandle underneath the Walmart sign because it was well lit and like in a public space, so like can't.
How
really
much
get
do
into
people
trouble.
like that bring a day? You know, like I mean,
You can
stand out there.
An average that I've figured out
That you've seen or
from
something, yeah.
panhandling, a rough average would be $60 an hour. For busking, a rough average would be closer to 100.
What is a busking?
Oh, that's doing anything like performative wise for tips. So like
Okay,
playing
yeah.
an
So they
instrument.
make good.
My
doing that,
favorite
yeah.
busk before I started playing ukulele was if you stand in front of a gas station and shuffle a deck of cards and smile at people and make eye contact as they walk past, they will give you money. Because people like magicians, but they don't have time for a magic trick. That's the whole premise, and it works. I shit you not. Like, I did that whenever I first came to this town. I needed some money. Went up to the fucking Sefco, stood out front, shuffled a deck of cards. Like, an hour later, I had $100 in my pocket.
Okay.
Damn.
That's legit.
Damn.
Anywho, back to Huddle House.
Oh, yeah. So they decided that they wanted to panhandle, and, like, they had the couple look going on. Like, they would make more money by themselves panhandling if I'm not around. But if I'm there, it, like, gives off a different look. They're going to make less money. Like, it looks like a group of bums. Don't want to fund that. But, like, a couple that's down on their luck, they deserve the money. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna go dumpster dive, do some other things, like to like be productive, bring some stuff in, so that whenever they get money, they'll share their stuff with me, and like I'll share my stuff with them. It's kind of the premise of like the traveling life. Like everybody you have around, like the universe gives everything to you, and you just share it with everybody that's around you. Like, so I just go around and I'm like going through dumpsters and stuff like that. I'm on my way back though, and I go by the Burger King, and I'm like talking to the workers there, and they're all cool as shit. They gave me a Burger King visor, a handful of other things, and then I went over towards the Huddle House to get snipes out of their ashtray, like half-smoked cigarette butts for my friends because they smoked cigarettes. I'm like walking up to the Huddle House, and like there's like the manager and like somebody else standing around outside. Mind you, I'm a very balls to the wall type of person. I don't really care about like the perceived image that I give to people whenever I'm doing things. Like if I'm gonna do a thing, I'm gonna do it. Like, so I was in my mind, I was gonna go up and I was gonna get cigarette butts out of this ashtray because who's gonna stop you from doing that reasonably? Who's gonna be like, oh no, you can't do that? So I'm like walking up and I'm like, hey, what's up, guys? And they're like, oh, not much. What's up with you? And I was like, I was just gonna be trashy for a second. I go to lift the top off of the cigarette butt container, and the manager dude, he turns towards me. He starts calling me all kinds of things, a dirty bum fuck, like a ratted out piece of shit, a bunch of different things. And he told me to like fuck off, and I was like, all right, whatever, eat a dick. So I left, and I went back over to my friends, and like we were kind of watching. And like I don't think that he noticed us because I never saw him looking over in our direction. And I was watching, and I waited for him to go back inside. And like I was 19, it was like 10 o'clock at night. Like, it's October, it's trouble season, you know what I mean? Season, So I'm like, all right, guys, so I'm going to go do something. I'll be back. Whenever I'm back, we should probably be ready to go. So I go, and I go like around the back of the Burger King, and then I army crawl through the parking lot of the Huddle House, like through a direction where there are cameras, like that's some real obvious cameras, through a direction where none of the cameras were pointing. And I got all the way up, and I had to army crawl because they had like windows all around the building.
Yeah, the ledge.
So I had to be underneath it. I get all the way up there, and I take the whole cigarette tower. I drag it all the way back across the parking lot to the Burger King. I take the snipes out of it. I leave it there. I'm like, yeah, I'm starting a turf war. Like, fuck Huddle House. Like, Burger King deserves this ashtray because they didn't have one. I'm like, Burger King should have this. Like, they met me. They gave me a visor. Huddle House met me. He called me a piece of shit. Fuck that guy. Like, so I did that, and then I went back to my homies, and I was like, all right, we should definitely fuck off now. And so we gather up.
Well, how was it? Was it worth it? How many cigarette butts did you get out?
Like 2 or 3.
Oh, really?
So not like a crazy amount. But we have to walk past the Burger King to go to where we were planning on camping. And we're like walking past, and literally I'm like 3 feet away from this fucking ashtray as we're walking past, and all of the police officers in Mount Sterling, Kentucky, all of them arrive to that fucking parking lot. And like they all hop out of the vehicle, and they're laughing because this whole thing is so absurd, literally already off the bat. And they're like, all right, which one of you stole the ashtray? And I was like, all right, it was me, because I'm not going to let them like pin it on all of us. I know how the co-defendant shit works. Like they could just charge us all with the same fucking thing. I was like, nah, like I'll take the charge for like tomfoolery. So that, and then they were basically just like, what's going on? And I told them the story. I was like, I went over there to get cigarette butts, and the dude was an asshole. So I said he was kind of being an asshole. Those are my exact words. I remember this because he wrote it different on the report, and that pissed me off. I remember that. And I explained it, and then I was like, all right, so how's about this? What if I pick up this ashtray, carry it back over there, I look the man in the eye, and I apologize? Because, like, you guys are from the South, you know. Like, there's respect between men. Like, that's a thing that's feasible. So he's like, all right. So I pick up this fucking ashtray, and I'm like waddling it across the parking lot, and they're in their vehicles with just the lights on, not the sirens going, like driving around me. And I feel like I'm in like some real weird like D flick, like just like carrying this fucking ashtray. But I set it down, and like I apologized to the dude. I was like, I don't even fucking smoke cigarettes. First off, just so we're clear. Like, and I apologized to him, and he looks at me, and then like looks over at the cop. The cop's like, okay, so now since you're back on this property, the manager has the choice on whether or not you go to jail.
What in the fuck?
And that's exactly what they told me. I looked over at the manager looked at me, the manager looked at the cop, and he said, I want him to go to jail. The owner wants him to go to jail. He's going to jail.
What the
So I was like, fuck it. So I start heading towards the car. Like, I literally walk up to the car, I open up the back door, and get in by myself. They don't put me in handcuffs, nothing like that. Like, I literally just hopped in. So, like, I had just left a rainbow gathering, like, a week before. I'm, like, rifling through my pockets on the way to jail. I had two things in my pockets that were very amusing to me in this moment that I realized that I had both of these things. One of them was in a piece of aluminum foil. I had a couple of hits of LSD, but the other one was I had this little like plastic nug of weed, like a fake nug. But like if I set it down on that table right there and you looked at it from where you were, you'd swear to God that's a nug of weed. But I was like, this is going to be one funny interaction whenever I get into the police station. So I eat the acid, obviously. Because why wouldn't you? Like,
Yeah, I
you're
guess
just
so.
going to willingly carry that into jail?
Yeah.
No thanks, bucko. Fuck that. I actually, like, after I ate it, I was talking to the cop because I had pepper spray in my pocket. I was like, hey, I don't want to, like, be smuggling
Alarm
this
you,
into a
yeah.
jail. Like, but I do have this. Like, fucking take it from me or whatever. So anyways, I get in there and, like, they book me. It's, like, 10, 11 at night or whatever. And they put me in this little drunk tank with, like, 5 other dudes. All of them except for this old man are asleep. But this old man's up, and he, like, as soon as he sees me, he's like, hey, man, what's going on? Like, he's like, you play cards? I was like, yeah, what kind of cards are we playing? And he taught me King's Corner, which to this day is still one of my favorite card games to play. But I sat there, tripped balls, and fucking played King's Corner for hours. They give you, like, a little lunch bag whenever you go into the holding tank. Got, like, a sandwich. It had, like, a couple of jellies and a cookie and a drink mix. I literally only wanted the drink mix, so I just gave all the rest of the stuff to the dude. I was like, here, like, I don't want all the rest of this. Like, I'm fucking tripping. Like, I want something sweet to drink. But then, like, 2 o'clock in the morning rolls around, 2 or 3 in the morning, I think it was. And they're like, they open up the door and they point at me and they're like, come here. I'm like, all right, whatever. Or like, what's going on? And they're like, you're going to talk to a judge. I was like, at fucking 2, 3 in the morning, whatever. Like, yeah. So they brought me up and it was like a phone you'd see in any business, except it had like a camera screen on it. And like I'm talking on the phone to this judge, like looking at this judge on a screen. Like she explains to me like what I did, what the charges were, all that shit, like all the formal stuff. And she's like, all right, we're gonna ROR you. You got a court date set for whenever. I didn't ever pay attention to it. And then they were like,
Does that
"All
mean
right,
you?
we're gonna
Does
release
that?
court
This
date."
means you didn't want to go to court.
No, I didn't. But a couple hours go by and then they release me. It's like 4 a.m. And as they're giving me all my stuff back, like I get all my stuff back and they're like, oh yeah, your friends have been calling, like repeatedly all night, asking when we're going to give you back to them. Like they said, literally they were calling and asking like, when are you going to give us our friend back? Like what the fuck? So I was like, can I call them? And they're like, no. It's like, all right, can I have their phone number? And they were like, all right, that's reasonable. So they gave me the phone number, and I walk all the way back into fucking town because the jail was like 2-3 miles outside of the town. So I walk all the way into town. Like, it's not dawn, but it's like the twilight before the dawn or whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to this truck stop, and I use the phone, and I call them. And they answer, and they're like, hey, where are you? I was like, I'm at the truck stop. Where are you? They're like, we're at Huddle House. Come by. I was like, yeah, fuck you guys. Like, I thought they were making a joke at me, and they're like, no, come to Huddle House. So I'm like, all right. So I walk the rest of the way up to the Huddle House, and they're standing outside of the Huddle House with some dude in a suit. And, like, I come up almost to the property line, and I stand right there, and I'm like, they told me whenever I left that I'm trespassed. I'm not allowed to come back to Huddle House, all of them, like, any of them ever. But the, like, dude in the suit walks up. He apparently owns that specific Huddle House. It's like a franchise or whatever. He owns that specific one. He shook my hand and said, thank you for giving, or he said, like, thank you for giving me the most amazing story that this Huddle House has ever given me. Like, he thought that the whole story was hilarious. He said that the manager never called him the night before, or else I would have never gone to jail. Like, he was literally was like, yeah, that guy's just like an asshole, but he keeps people from stealing the food and the money. So, like, pretty good to have in the location.
Pretty good employee.
Yeah.
I get it.
But yeah, he wrote me a note though, specifically allowing me back onto that Huddle House property. So I'm allowed at that Huddle House.
Do you
and
still
even
have
gave
this
us free
note?
food. I had it at one point, but man, traveling you lose packs and like shit gets wet and like you get really high and you're in the woods. Like shit happens.
He just said I used it as a rolling paper.
Shit's happened. Shit's happened. Yeah,
So-
no, I'm
So
only
you're allowed
allowed
at one Huddle House in Mount Sterling, Kentucky.
Yes, I am. I'm actually not allowed in Mount Sterling. Well, I mean, I am. They do want me to go there.
I can go to the Huddle House, but I can't go
They
to the
do
state.
want me
though.
to go there.
I-
I'm not allowed there.
Technically, now I probably have a warrant.
No, I for sure have a warrant. I thought about going in and turning myself in on it at one point, just because I was bored and like didn't have anything really better to do.
It's a cold winter day.
No,
Needed a
straight
warm
up,
place to sleep.
That's straight up what I was thinking. But I was like, all right, so how do I turn myself in? Like, can I just cross the Kentucky state line and then find any police officer? And they're like, no, you got to get to Mount Sterling and turn yourself in there. I was like, okay, what happens if a police officer asks for my ID on my way there?
You told them to
And then
fuck
there was
off
a
and you
good
run.
silence. Like, there was a good silence. They're like, well, they're going to arrest you. And I'm like, yeah. And then turning myself in didn't really do me very much fucking good, did it? Because they arrested me off the street and I didn't actually turn myself in.
Well, no, see, if you go over there and you find, like, the closest police station to the border, and then you walk into the police station and be like, hey, I'm wanted in Mount Sterling. Take me. They'll put you in a car and give you a free trip.
That'd be cool.
That's that heated ride.
I just wound up not doing it, and I actually went out to the desert at that point in time, and it was a pretty all right time. I did a bunch of drugs there.
What desert are we talking about? Like New
Like
Mexico?
the Southwest.
Oh.
Like New Mexico. Yeah.
Gross. I'm going to be real with you, dude. I've done some traveling. Honestly, in like 6 weeks, I hit like 14 states,
Nice.
which is like, fuck this. I want to go.
Yeah.
I drove through New Mexico. It was a shithole.
Yes.
Like the
it is like the only place in this entire country that I felt persecuted because of my skin.
what was it,
Like, I felt
Raton?
like people regularly were treating me differently because I was white.
And
And I
then-
was being told that. That's why I thought that. People were like, hey, you shouldn't be here. You're white.
Okay, so have you been to Colorado? Obviously, smoking
Yeah,
weed and whatnot.
I don't really like Colorado. that
Okay,
much.
so when you say you don't like Colorado, what was it that you didn't like?
Number one, like it's overblown with
Okay.
a bunch of like wannabe hippies. Like we're talking like the kind of people that want to smoke weed, but also would call the cops on you if they saw you suspicious in a park at 2 a.m. probably smoking weed. Like those kinds of people.
Yeah. Okay, I get that vibe. Anything else you didn't like?
Everything was really weirdly priced. Like I would go into stores and I always felt like it was a guessing game. Like not just on like weed. I mean like on anything. I would go into a store and like sometimes things would be inexplicably way cheaper than I would expect them. Other times I'd go in and it'd be like, oh, why are Oreos $10 for the fun size sleeve? Like
So I spent a total of 6 days and went all the way from the most south part of Colorado all the way up to the top of it, and then back down to the southwest of Colorado. Where is it? Durango.
yeah.
And that state, like there was 2 spots that were like actually pretty. And one was when I was coming down from Silverthorne, I like to think it was, and we were coming out through a mountain pass. We went by Loveland Pass, where the hell that is, and we were traveling down, and we went through like a state park area, and it went from being like desolate, nothing, like fucking barren mountains to like a wooded park.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I've been through there.
Yeah, and it was fucking beautiful there. And then the only other spot that was kind of pretty was close to Durango. Everything else was just like barren, dead mountains. And people are like, oh, it's so beautiful here. And I'm like, dude, it's dead. It's lifeless. This literally is like the husk of the world.
Dude, I think everybody before they die should walk or hitchhike from the east side to the west side of the state of Washington. Because the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life were along that exact path. I was literally walking down a highway, like heading west, and on the eastern side of Washington, like it's flat, like there's nothing, like it's a whole lot of fucking nothing. But I was walking and like there was this real long downhill and then uphill that I could see, and like almost like it was a moon orbiting our planet. I could see like the peaks of a mountain, like through the haze of the horizon, like as I was walking. And like I got this like very primal like satisfaction from like seeing like, holy shit, I've actually made it to the fucking mountains. Like I've been going in this direction. Like I'm from the east. I have been heading directly west this whole time. Like that's it. That's the fucking wall I got to get to. And then whenever I got to like the foot of it, it was one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen in my life. And not everybody would necessarily find the beauty in it, but it's in Natchez, Washington. Like I went through Moses Gap. I got dropped off in Moses Gap first, and then I got a ride to Natchez. Moses Gap has a little dispensary, which is the first place I ever bought weed legally. I walked in with $13 in my pocket. The lady was all tatted up, had piercings. I walked in, it was just me and her in the store, like a little store like barely bigger than the size of this little room. And she's like, what kind of budget you working with today, hon? Like she could just see it on me that I was like poor or whatever. And I was like, I got $13. And she turns around and she's like, oh, well, this eighth is $13. And I was like, I think you might have misheard me. I have $13, not $13 plus tax. And that's whenever she informed me taxes included.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
so it's like, hell yeah, got me an eighth.
And then I went to Natchez though, but this real beautiful spot is like like there's a bridge over water, and like you're not really supposed to be underneath the bridge or whatever. But this river, you can like sit there with your feet in this ice cold water and look and literally see the entire path all the way up the fucking mountain. Like all the way down, like literally just straight path. You can see where the water you're touching, you can see exactly where it's traveled for the past few hours. Like that whole long path.
That's
It
lit.
sucks if you like swimming in water though, because it is ice cold.
Cold, yeah.
Like,
Yeah, most mountain springs pretty cold.
very
That's for sure.
clean and good tasting water though, I will say.
Hell yeah.
And
Yeah,
very
you could
likely that you're
basically-
the first
Did-
like human to ever drink that
They
water.
don't purify.
I mean, I hope you're the first one to drink that water. It's not coming out of the mountain as piss.
No, I'm saying like it's I think it's a lot of like glacial melt, I believe.
Okay.
And like spring water comes
But that
from real far
automatically
underground.
purifies it, right? Like,
Rocks
Yes,
catch
so,
debris and minerals.
This is a neat Kentucky thing, and in that general area, there's a lot of like limestone and limestone caverns and stuff. If you ever find yourself lost and you find limestone like in the ground, like sticking out of the ground anywhere, and water is coming out of it, it is always safe to drink.
Mhm.
Always.
I
Purified.
don't know what limestone looks like.
It is a sedimentary rock that is typically pitted and has like kind of like, you know about pumice?
Do you know about pumice?
Do you know what like do you
No,
know what pumice is?
no idea.
Okay, so it's like then I can't use that as comparison for like texture. It's like
But
kinda
it's
toned down
layered,
pumice.
like a layered rock, like a
It's kinda
layered
got-
sediment.
Yeah, it's got bubbles in it though, like air
Yeah.
bubbles.
Yeah,
It's-
like where you'd see like craters in it. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, I can imagine it. What color
but-
is it? Brown?
a variety. It comes in a variety
Green?
of colors, but like brownish, greenish. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's be real. You don't find that many rocks sticking out of the ground with water coming out of them.
In Kentucky, you do a lot actually.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah, like you'll be driving down the road and like you'll see a rock
yeah,
wall and
that's
it's
everywhere.
wet, and it's because of that. Or like if it's winter, the whole rock wall will be covered in
iced.
icicles.
Yeah.
Because it's like constantly seeping through, like the water level is.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
water seeks to equalize itself. It just takes a long time to travel through the limestone.
Well, does anybody else have any questions for Allari for this episode?
Not to my knowledge.
all right, covered a good bit.
Yeah.
Really knowledgeable man.
Yeah. Now we know why he can only go to one huddle house, but he can't go to that city because his ass didn't go back to court.
No, I did not. Because why would I?
Dude, what are you gonna
I
do?
feel like- I
What are you
feel
gonna do
like
if they,
a couple
if like one of their
hours ago-
cops is watching this podcast and they
I've
find
called
you?
them-
That's what I was
have
wondering,
called
like,
them personally
whoa.
before. I called them to ask multiple times whether or not my warrant still existed.
Is the warrant
the last
for
time
the
they got
Huddle
kind of
House?
mad.
Are they not able to answer that, or what?
No, they can.
Did they answer
They
it?
informed me that I do have a warrant. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you did.
Yeah, they can inform me as a warrant, but they're like, "Are you gonna come in?" And he's like, "No." And they're like, "Okay."
I also have a warrant in my home state, and I know that if I ever go in and like deal with it, it's gonna get thrown out immediately because like he wrote so many things down on it wrong. Like he wrote my birth date and the date of when it happened, like transcribed, because it was like 2 or 3 days before or after my birthday. So he wrote my birthday in as the day that it was, and he wrote the day that it was as my birthday. So like, first off, I don't think that the whole thing can count literally at all at this point. But
Well, I mean,
also-
they. What
So
if they
he-
can't
he
prove-
on
did
the
it.
Warrant,
He-
on the warrant, it is seeking a person with my name who was born on like March 24th, 1998. My ID states that I was born March 21st, 1998.
Oh,
I
you're
am
fine.
Not that person.
Yeah, you're good.
Nice.
Yeah, that's over with.
Well, hell yeah, dude. We appreciate you coming in and giving us
Yeah,
some
dude.
interesting
It's always a
outlooks
good
on
time.
life. The Huddle
I got
House
other
stories.
stories in
We'll
town.
definitely have you back again to hit some more of your odd topics that you've hit traveling the United States on foot.
For sure.
But
It's been
anyway,
fun.
guys, thank you for tuning in to the Uncomfortable Three-Way, and y'all have a wonderful day, and hopefully you win that fucking Powerball. If you do,
Yeah.
split it with
Good
me.
luck.
Yeah, good luck, people. Somebody's got to win this shit.